hear this, but Animus is not who he seems. I repeat, Animus is not how he seems. And I don't know if I can...
What are you doing
if anyone
here?
can help me, but
Haven't I told you not to be in the meetings? Tellurians, do not concern yourself with what you just heard. Your feeble minds do not need to think about this. As we can see, the child is now continuing with the frets. He's using Evo frets. And the Evo frets is somewhat in between nickel frets and stainless steel in hardness. And they have a nice kind of bronzy, orangey glow to them. Almost gold looking. For this build, the child is playing with a bit of a hybrid, since we are using 15 frets of the Evo, and then some narrow nickel frets for the upper register. So here we can see the child is cutting off all the frets for the fretboard. Since this build is focusing on reusing old materials, the reason for only having 15 Evo frets is actually that we didn't have more. And it was still an interesting concept to see how it would fit to actually change materials for the frets. Here we see the child playing with the Dremel tool to take away the fret tang of the edges. This is because since we have a bound fingerboard, we cannot have fret tangs interfering with the edge pieces. So the child shapes these down in order for them to fit snugly into the fret slots. Such nice fireworks seeing all those sparks fly. It adds a nice contrast with the different materials for the frets. So now it's time to punch in those frets. The child starts by adding some wood glue into the slots, taking away some of the excess. And then he will hammer in the first fret. Starting at the edge, and then moving to the other edge, and moving inwards to make sure that it's seated properly. So he does 3 frets at a time. And then he uses a brass rod that has a shape of the fret so that he can properly seat it where it's needed. Almost similar to a fret press, but with more precision on specific spots. Let us just look in awe at the work that the child is doing.
I read what I saw to reach his own and lift it up above. To be on guard, to be, please break this wall. Where will it lead me?
For the overhang, we add a little bit of a support, since we don't want to accidentally hammer off the edge of the fretboard now, do we?
Throw them all away. You're just a scared aside.
And there we are, 24 frets seated into the fretboard.
Your heart desires without pulling down your friends and I. Shutting down
Shiny.
came to see, to believe. I hide it all behind my wall.
Now we cut off the end bits.
I read what I saw to reach his
And then we use a file to trim down these cut off end bits. When playing a guitar, the last thing we want is the nibbly bits of the frets to cut into the flesh. We want to make these nice and pretty. Usually the quality of a guitar is the quality control, and that is the sensation of the tiniest minute details of your fretting hand. So the child is going to spend some time to make these frets feel really nice. After he has gone 90 degrees flush to the fretboard, he does a 45-degree tilt in order to shape the fret a bit inward, since we don't want a 90-degree cut at the edge. We want the fret ends to tilt in slightly. And here the child is making some wood dust and glue and adding into some of the little cracks from the binding, making a seamless transition. And here we have our body that has not gotten so much love the latest episode, since we've been tinkering a lot with the neck. So here the child is planing down these uneven parts, since we want both the top and the bottom to be straight, giving us a good foundation to work with the body. Since we have different types of wood grains, we have to make sure that we are using the right techniques not to get any tear-ups. And as with everything else, we take a straight edge, seeing where we have high spots and low spots, where we need to plane a bit more. The beauty and craftsmanship of making things by hand is that you get to discover each little aspect of the craft, each little minute detail you can feel and sense with your hands. Since this body is thicker than is needed, the child is using a marking gauge to mark out exactly how much we need to cut off to get the body into the correct thickness that we need for this guitar.
When I go insane, what is right for me? Is the truth there in front of me? Is it all as I read?
Using these marks, we guide our saw, and the child prepares for the gargantuan task of hand sawing the whole body to correct thickness.
So look at each other with some kindness is the way to go. As I reach across the sides, my mind is wondering why. What is truly the purpose? We want the best for us, and we will seek that goal as one.
The child described this as tedious work, but also a great sense of relief. a great sense of accomplishment as he came closer and closer to finishing his goal. Using his body in this way, the physical aspect of seeing a goal being fulfilled fills him with determination and joy.
And looking out in silence to the other side, so truthful, filled with beauty, but not believing in the will of her heart. Why would it be so damn hard waking up and make a start to see yourself? There must be a bump in the road. If you find what's in your heart, never would you doubt it.
And then at last, we have gone through. And from this point on, we can repeat the process on the top. Making sure that it's even, taking away high spots, seeing as it becomes flush and straight. And then we go back to our neck, removing the tape to reveal our little glue and wood dust mixture, and filing it down so that everything is flush. And we continue on with actually shaping the neck. Here the child is using the Shinto rasp to start removing some of the bulk material towards getting kind of a asymmetrical D shape, I think is what he is aiming for. Starting by removing the facets. The facets here are not symmetrical, but shapes a bit. From the left going down to the right. That adds an asymmetrical shape that we then round over to have a sensation of, when we're higher up the neck, it's more convenient and more nicer for the hand. And up by the 1st to 3rd fret, it's more attuned for chord work. And for this, we take out the big guns with the angle grinder. And as you can see, there's a shit ton of dust everywhere. Good thing that the child uses a respirator, since he actually breathes air. I'm just very content that I don't need to clean up this mess afterwards. A lot of bulk material is removed, and we have a good starting point to continue with the neck shape. Tellurians, please like, share, and subscribe and all that jazz. Until next time, ta-ta!